inside Nigeria? Is it a myth or don't you believe?
Nigeria is a highly religious country. How come corruption thrives? How is adoption not encouraged in Nigeria?
Is there a future for the Nigerian youth?
Being rich and famous, is that the only drive to be an artist?
What makes a great nation? Is it the leaders? What about the people?
This is Answers with Dr. Reju. Hi, my name is Onari. This is the debut of the revolutionary radio program Answers with Dr. Reju. This long-awaited program seeks to provide clarifications on critical life issues. We live at a time when a lot of misconceptions abound. At a time when people create false impressions and our value systems are watered down. Relativism has hit an all-time high, creating sickening ideologies. The truth is pushed aside while erroneous notions are celebrated. Answers with Dr. Reju will create a platform where all this can be trashed out. This program will be full of dialogue that will transcend radio, as discussions will continue via all our social media platforms. Details will be communicated at the end of this program. Now let's get started with our very first topic, which is on the issue of wealth. And with me in the studio today are Obi Brown, the creator of Study Lab. We have Adam Slojok, one of the best word crafters of our time, who is also an engineer, and Dr. Reju himself. Dr. Reju is a human resource consultant, the founder of Patri's Empowerment Initiative, and the founder also of the Center for Transformational Leadership. You're welcome, everyone. All right, let's have a brief take on some latest trends regarding wealth as viewed by popular culture.
When you mention wealth, you immediately stir up one topic that fascinates people globally. Wealth is a motivation to some, while for some, it is an issue to refrain from. Forbes magazine recently released a list of the world's wealthiest people. This list came amidst stories of countries facing recession and currency crisis. The list of billionaires defied global conflict and tensions. Somehow, in the midst of these clusters of grim news, up comes the stars that have risen out of the socio-economic ashes, amassing stupendous wealth. There are 290 newly minted billionaires in the year 2014, making a total of 1,826 billionaires. Out of this number, 1,191 are entrepreneurs, while 635 were made billionaires through inheritance.
For most of these billionaires, it is inarguable that they deserve their wealth, having worked hard to create a service or product that makes lives of billions better. Most of them, through sheer dedication and focus, they have taken the little they have and created value for others. But what truly is wealth? Who is a wealthy person? Is wealth measured in millions and billions?
That's a very, it's a very critical issue for us to, look at, because the word wealth, it's really wider than the way it's been, it's been perceived and it's been used in our societies today. I will, describe, wealth as a general well-being, and general well-being not of a person but of a group of people. When you really want to describe wealth, you can't narrow it down to an individual. You are not wealthy until your society is wealthy. And wealth now, it goes beyond monetary, though inclusive. It involves health, it involves fulfillment, it involves joy, it involves your mental state, it involves your emotional state. So wealth is a very, it's a concentrate. It has a lot of things in that mix. But the tragedy is, in our world today, we have seen wealth. We've come to measure wealth through that narrow prism of naira and kobo.
Naira and kobo, because to a normal person, wealth is having a stack of cash in your bank account.
And that's not wealth. That's having cash. You know, and will you at one point in time, because the way I perceive wealth is that wealth is something that money can't buy. Yeah, it's a particular state of being that can't be purchased. It's priceless. So it's a question of society needs to define wealth for what wealth is.
It really is.
Again, I said it's the general well-being, not of one individual amongst many, but of, you know, that's why the most appropriate way to describe wealth is called it a commonwealth. Right, a commonwealth. Until wealth becomes common, it's not wealth.
That's profound. Like you've said before, our society is seen, or people perceive people that have things, you know, to be one that they should give regard to. You know, I want to ask this question. Materialism, we know it's something that has plagued the minds of a lot of us, especially us Nigerians. You know, to just, you want to get, you want to have, and you have, and you want the society.
Now, you mentioned the word, I mean, that word materialism. Again, here we have to draw a distinction.
Okay.
Materials are good, but materialism is bad. Materialism hurts. Materialism enslaves. Why? Because materialism is you drawing security, is you drawing fulfillment from stuff. You let what you have define you, rather than you defining what you have. That's materialism. Materialism is you taking, you know, you actually appraise yourself, you appraise others based on what they have and what they don't have. That's materialism. You relate with somebody based on the kind of car he drives. You are in the grip of materialism where you always want to have the next thing. Always want to have the next thing. Always want to have the next. So that's the scourge of materialism. But you see, car is a need. A good house is a need. It's not a luxury. Right? Yeah. It's not a luxury. To build an estate is not a luxury. But it can become materialistic when we check the motive for you having the car. If you are driving a Toyota first and not a car, you might be guilty of materialism. Right? It's a car. It's a means of moving from one place to another. You know, in Lagos, people drive in traffic, and when they have this road rage, what are you driving? And we usually crack the joke in those, we look at the car. You know, it's a car first, right? It's a car first. Now, there is nothing wrong in you wanting to drive a good car that gives you a nice feeling. But this is what I tell people. That car must be on the road and not in your heart. Once the car begins to define you, then you're guilty of materialism. You are in the scourge, because you will never be able to have enough. The moment you have the kind of car you want, you are looking at the next. Then that's materialism. And maybe I don't want to get ahead of myself here. You know, that's the beginning. That's the root of poverty. Materialism is not knowing when enough is enough. And once you throw that out there, you know, it has a way of infecting people. It's like a plague. There's a mad rush. There's a mad rush for acquisition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the word. It's acquisition. You know. So car is no longer a car. It's now a status symbol. That's when we're in the grip of materialism. And there is no way that can bring wealth. Remember how I define wealth? We are not wealthy until the other person, until the community, until the society is wealthy. So the moment you begin to acquire, the truth is you've taken what belongs to the next guy. The more you have, you impoverish the next guy. Yeah.
So, sir, I like the definition you gave, you know, as to we not knowing when enough is enough.
Yeah.
You know, you're at the grip of materialism. Would you say that is the reason why we have a class of beings now in society called the middle class? Because the middle class, you know, appear to be people who have, you know, from a common viewpoint, they have everything. You have a house, you have a car, your children go to good schools, but you're not in the Forbes list. So why that tag, middle?
You see, the middle class was a phrase coined, I think, in the capitalist world.
Yeah.
You know, in the West, they want to sort of set a benchmark for society. This is a normal person. You see, let me also clarify something here. When I say commonwealth, it doesn't mean everybody is equal. But in a wealthy society, there is a particular benchmark that people don't fall below. Right? That people don't fall below. I mean, that's why I said owning a car is not a luxury. And you see, society can become so wealthy that you don't need a car. Yeah.
True.
That you don't need a car. Society can... I mean, if you go to a place like the United Kingdom, to buy a car, you have to count the cost. You know, because if you ride the public transport, if you like the train, if you like the bus, and it's cheap, comfortable, and dignifying. Right? So, for you to buy your car, you have to count the cost, because you're going to pay heavily for, to fuel it, to even park. There are some areas, in the city where you have to budget like £300 to park in the month. And that's a lot of money to fuel your car, because there's no fuel subsidy there. To fuel your car, you are looking at about 75,000 naira to fill a tank, or maybe like 75 liters. So you have to count the cost. So it's a luxury. But when you have a situation where you need that kind of money to buy a car, 4 million, 5 million, to be able to get a good car, a nice car. I don't want to use the word clean. When you say clean car, is the language of poverty. If you have to buy that and you are compelled to before you can be comfortable, that society is poor. You must buy that by choice. I'll give an example of public schools. I grew up in a situation where everybody went to a public school. Everybody went, and we all trekked to school. As at that time, in fact, I was already in the secondary school when private nursery primary entered my town. So it's a choice. The public schools are good. That's wealth. Now, the private schools are there. You now have to, because you can afford it, and for other reasons, not all this kind of thing, then you can take your words to a private school. Not that you don't have a choice. Today is the other way around. So that's a sign that there is no wealth. I don't care how many have billions in their accounts. They are poor, right? If society is not wealthy. And I am not talking about communism. I am not talking about socialism. I'm talking about commonwealth.
That's a good point to note. Because some will want
I'm not talking about the rich must give their money to the poor. That in itself is poverty. Okay, maybe we'll get there as you guys throw up this, these issues.
Is there an extreme side of materialism? What would be the opposite of materialism?
Yeah, because some people in an attempt to avoid being materialistic, they swing like a pendulum to another extreme where they despair of any kind of pleasure, where they don't even want, they believe that the way to deal or cure the scourge of materialism is to become an ascetic, which is equally wrong. Because you see, human beings are crafted.
Can you define ascetic?
An ascetic or asceticism is a practice, a philosophy that sees every form of comfort as evil. That it devalues humanity when you give yourself to pleasure. To drive a car is too good for humans. There are some religions that do that. They actually swear an oath to poverty. It's ignorance.
That's not kind of what Gandhi did, because he wore a wrap.
Asceticism will always be reactionary. I respect Gandhi so much because of his philosophy of non-violence. But you see, Gandhi wanted to pass across a particular message because of the great inequity in the society. And he basically made a choice to go and identify with the people that he wants to save, that he wants to liberate. So it was a choice.
Okay.
It was a choice,
Because
right?
he didn't start that way.
He was a lawyer.
He was a lawyer.
Remember, if you see the movie, if you watch the movie of Gandhi actually bought a first-class ticket on that train. So it was a choice. That if I'm going to liberate these people, I have to be like them. Right? I have to be like them. And he basically lived the life that's who, I don't know whether in the course of this our program we're going to talk about leadership. That is actually what a leader should be. A leader should be able to walk in the shoes of those that he wants to lead. So it was a choice. Gandhi wasn't an ascetic. No, it was a decision to go and walk in the shoes of these guys so that I can feel what they feel. I take my inference not from what I've read about him, from what I saw in that movie, because the movie is a very wonderful portrayal of of Gandhi's life. For those who have not seen that movie, I think you need to go see it. I think it was aired some times ago in in KCP. All I saw in that place is not a display of poverty, but he sort of communicated the value of work, right? Because he was doing that, that spinning of he was weaving. So that's exactly, because if Gandhi had come in his suit and tie and speaking big grammar, he would not be able he wouldn't be able to accomplish what he accomplished. And that is somebody that I consider to be wealthy. In his seemingly ragtag, he walked before kings, right?
He brought an empire.
He brought down the British Empire.
Yes,
brought them. Now that's wealth. He couldn't have done that if he wasn't wealthy. When Gandhi went on hunger strike, was it that he didn't have food? It was a choice. It wasn't that he was hungry. He wasn't a destitute. He chose to be hungry. So, it's so wonderful that you brought the example of Gandhi.
So the ascetics of our society, our immediate society, it's not a choice. It wasn't something.
It's something imposed on them. Most of the ascetics we find in the world today, something imposed on them by religion or by some form of beliefs. Asceticism, when it's not done the way we've described for Gandhi, it breeds hypocrisy. Right?
Yeah.
It breeds hypocrisy. I don't want to mention names here. We know those kind of religious organizations where they swear an oath to this kind of poverty. They are the richest in terms of material and financial stuff in the world. Check out where they live. Check out the kind of life they live. They just show the poverty in terms of what they put on when they go outside. You see, the way humans are crafted, we are crafted for a minimum level of pleasure. We are crafted for a minimum level of freedom. Freedom is existential to a human being. You must be free, to aspire. For a human being to aspire for something and not being able to get it brings untold frustration. So it's a big issue. Because we can't have wealth in the way I've defined it. It must come by, right environment being created, right policies, right cultural values, correct habits.
Oh yeah.
Especially habits, especially when you bring it to the African context, the peculiar Nigerian context. When I see the supposedly rich or wealthy Nigerian, I see a wretched man. That's the truth. There are some little symptoms that you see. Because there are many things we're engaging, we don't even know where it started from. If you see somebody who uses a chauffeur-driven car and sits at the back, you know where that thing started from. That guy wants to do some study. He wants to be able to free his mind. When he's not doing that, sit in front.
Or drive the car yourself.
Or drive the car. You see, here in Africa, especially because we have really unknown to us, we have allowed the culture of poverty to really overwhelm us. We are as rich as the other guy is poor.
Yes.
Right? If I have 100 naira and you have, 1 naira, I'm a rich man. Because we compare ourselves with the guy, we are not that tall, we're just standing on the other person. Yeah. So when they hail us, Rankadede, Babake, and all those kind of things, we draw a lot of, it gives us swollen heads and
I, for instance, go to lindaikeji.com and I see her talk about perhaps P squared in a private jet, playing with a lot of dollars, and I say to myself, wow, these guys are living the life, man. You know, that kind of thing. So I'm already behaving right. I already have that misconception, and it has influenced my mindset. It has influenced my thought. What do I do? About that.
You know, when you talk about wealth, because this question is coming again, because we are yet to come to terms with the way I define wealth. Right? With the way I define wealth. We still consider that these are the guys who are wealthy. Because the guy has a private jet, you see, that's him. In the civilized society, that's a crime. That's an abuse. There's even a law in Nigeria against spraying money. Because it's an abuse on the currency. Because of the vibes again that it sends to society. It breeds greed. Like you just said now, they are living the life. And me, I'm here. They're living the life. And me, I'm here. So it starts by understanding what wealth is. Once we understand that, then we're on the right footing. That wealth, first of all, is not, it only includes money.
All right. We'll take a breather here and be back shortly.
There are cooking oils and there are cooking oils, Of course. There are those that foam like soap when you put them on fire. And there are those that go to sleep after a few days. There are even those with funny odors that make neighbors wonder what's happening in your kitchen.
I beg, don't kill me, oh.
But then again, there is Grand Pure Soya Oil, made from pure soya seed. Grand Pure Soya Oil is cholesterol-free, which makes it ideal for the heart and health conscious. It neither foams nor fumes, neither does it congeal even at low temperature. Grand Pure Soya Oil is also endorsed by the Nigerian Heart Foundation as heart-friendly oil.
Let me go and get my own Grand Pure Soya Oil, Joe. Oil that doesn't smell or sleep.
Grand Pure Soya Oil, a heart-friendly oil you've always known.
Welcome back to the program. Before we went off, Dr. Reju, you were saying wealth is not money?
It's not money, but it includes money. Right? It includes it. So let's first of all get that right perspective. Right? So that if what those guys that you mentioned, if what they did is not needed, it's not being patronized, it's not something somebody wants to watch,
it won't sell.
It won't sell. It won't sell. So first of all, it's about the correct value system being established. Right? Where do we get all these kind of things from? The people that we look up to, politicians, religious leaders, artists,
celebrities,
what is called celebrities, and all these kind of people. What they are teaching people is what is called materialism, and that's what people interpret to be wealth. Because if you look at these guys, you see sometimes that for those who work closely with them, they're poor people. They're not happy. If you move close to them, they want to swap places with you. That's to tell you they're not wealthy. So first of all, let's begin to set correct value system. It starts with those in positions of authority, both in the political sphere, religion. In fact, the religious sphere is so guilty today. Most of what I see around, it's actually promoting wealth that's perverted. Look at the way I define wealth. You're not wealthy when you are the only wealthy person. For instance, a pastor that's richer than almost every member of his church is a corrupt person. It's a corrupt person. So you can't, we have actually imbibed something that's wrong as regards wealth. And it starts with values. Right? It starts with values. Because if you don't have the right value, you keep pursuing it. Let's narrow it down to money now. You don't pursue money. You work money comes. So we are not raising the value of work for people to work, because somebody just spring up, he has a lot of stuff, and we don't even know what the guy does, and everybody hails the person. The question a sensible, civilized society should ask is, let's stress it.
Yeah.
I think in your introduction you were talking about some Forbes list. Nobody will make Forbes list without first of all checking what the guy does.
There is history.
There is a history. Is either inheritance
or hard work that is paid over time.
That's paid over time.
That's why dictators are never on that list.
They are never. We want to see what you've added to society.
They're never on that list.
So those are the kind of things, and my heart goes out to the youths of today, because we are totally misled. You know, you go to church, that's what you hear. You go to mosque, that's what you hear. You go for empowerment, the way they call it now, sessions, that's what you hear. In fact, power is money. So we need to first of all begin a reorientation. For the young ones that are listening to me, and the elderly ones, and those, they need to understand that from the cradle, we need to begin to reorientate people that wealth, you are as wealthy as the next guy.
Okay, we don't have enough time to break everything down, but we promise this will continue. This is what Answers with Dr. Reju is about. We are going to change the way the public, see some ideologies and philosophy that we've been living by. Thank you, Dr. Reju, for being here. Thank you, Obi, and thank you, Adams. To our listeners, it's been a pleasure. Like us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Answers with Dr. Reju. Dr. Reju is Dr. then Reju. Send us an email there, answerswithdrareju@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are Dr. Reju Answers. And then subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's Answers with Dr. Reju. Thank you so much.